Divine revelation, why your miraculous destiny was hidden for 40 days now prophesied to manifest. In the heart of a quaint English village, where cobbled streets met blooming fields, there lived a man named Thomas. He was no ordinary parishioner. He was the embodiment of faith itself. His devotion to prayer was legendary, whispered about in hushed tones that reverberated through the chapel's wooden beams, as if angels themselves were listening. Each day, amid the sweet scent of blooming roses, Thomas knelt at the altar beseeching the heavens for clarity. Yet, unknown to those around him, he bore an invisible weight upon his spirit. His beloved wife, Mary, radiantly warm and loving, had recently fallen ill, and his heart ached with worry. With their village, lit with anticipation for the annual harvest festival, was a kaleidoscope of joyous laughter and community spirit. But darkness loomed as Mary's health took a dire turn. Desperate for divine enlightenment, Thomas turned to the prayers dedicated to St. Jude, the advocate for lost causes. He clutched his rosary tightly, his weathered hands trembling as he sought guidance amidst despair. As storms raged outside, a symphony of thunder and lightning, the chapel bustled with devoted parishioners united in fervent prayer for Mary's recovery. Amidst the flickering candlelight, a miraculous vision pierced Thomas's consciousness. It felt as though the very fabric of the heavens had drawn close, enveloping the chapel in divine radiance. Whispers of an extraordinary destiny filled the air, an echo of a revelation yet to unfold within the family. A miracle hidden for 40 days, waiting like a treasure bound to be found. His heart surged with hope, but confusion soon followed. Could this truly be the answer he sought? Facing the skepticism of his neighbors, who feared the futility of hope against Mary's grim prognosis, Thomas found himself caught in a tempest, a crucible of faith versus fear. How can you still believe? They questioned, eyes wide with doubt, yet Thomas remained steadfast. While he sought remedies and advice from the well-meaning villagers, each suggestion brought only more sorrow, an increased sense of isolation whispering through his heart like a haunting shadow. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. That evening, the chapel pulsed with a collective heartbeat as villagers gathered again for prayer, their voices merging into a river of hope. It was an electric atmosphere charged with divine energy. Thomas felt it too, a warmth that enveloped him as they all reached for the heavens together. Suddenly, amidst a wave of fervent pleas, a distinct shift occurred. The atmosphere crackled as if the Holy Spirit descended. In that sacred moment, something extraordinary happened. Mary awoke, a glow surrounding her as though touched by heavenly light. Gasps echoed through the chapel, tears of joy mixing with disbelief as radiance filled the gloom. While rejoicing broke within the village, Thomas grappled with the profound realization that their trials were but the preface to a monumental chapter of faith. For 40 days, they had been prepared for the revelation of their true purpose. Questions lingered, tension brewing in hearts, and whispers traced like shadows among those gathered. What was next? What divine blueprint awaited them on this newfound path? The village would soon discover, for the weight of hope would take them to uncharted territories of faith, an extraordinary journey just beginning to unfold. The days that followed Mary's miraculous awakening were steeped in wonder. The village buzzed with the joyous news, and the chapel thrummed with an energy of gratitude. Thomas found himself in a familiar place, kneeling before the altar. But now it was no longer a space of desperation. Instead, it radiated a sense of promise, as if every prayer uttered had been woven into the very fabric of their lives. Mary, brimming with a renewed spirit, seemed to glow with life. Her laughter echoed through their home, chasing away the shadows that had lingered for too long. Thomas marveled at the transformation. With every hearty meal and warm embrace, It felt as though a balm had been applied to their souls. They often held hands sitting in the garden, sharing stories of faith that had inspired them throughout their lives. Yet as the sun dipped beneath the horizon, a whisper of uncertainty brushed against Thomas's heart. "Do you ever wonder why this happened to us?" Mary would occasionally sigh, her eyes reflecting the golden light of the setting sun. "What are we meant to do now, my love?" Thomas felt the gravity of her question. He could sense that God was stirring something significant in their lives. As the village prepared for the harvest festival, Thomas felt a pull deep within his spirit, a call to share their testimony of faith and revival. It was as though the very essence of their experience beckoned him to stand before the people and declare the majesty of God's provisions. On the eve of the festival, he gathered courage in his heart and stood before the congregation, his hands trembling yet resolute. Faces lit by flickering lanterns turned towards him, a sea of familiar eyes filled with anticipation. Taking a deep breath, he began to share their journey, the pain, the prayers, and now the miracle. "Do not lose heart when the road grows dark," he urged the villagers. "God is at work even in our darkest hours, preparing us for something beautiful." The crowd murmured in agreement, hearts ignited by his words. Amidst the jubilant celebrations, he spoke of hope, daring them to grasp the hands of faith and dive into the unknown waters of their destiny. Thomas felt a wave of divine presence enveloping him, empowering his words to resonate deeply within those gathered. As the sun rose brightly on the festival's day, the village was transformed by both the beauty of harvest and the miracle that had unfolded. Tables were laden with fruits and flowers, laughter mingling with the joyous shouts of children. Yet a palpable energy pulsed beneath the surface, binding the villagers together with new understanding that miracles could happen, and sometimes they were just the beginning. That evening, under the starlit sky, Thomas and Mary returned to the chapel together, hands intertwined. They knelt to offer their thanks, enveloped in peace. But just as they prepared to rise, an unexpected hush settled upon the chapel, a stillness that felt charged with divine anticipation. And in that moment, a soft voice whispered in Thomas's heart, "This is only the beginning." What message awaited them next? What divine purpose was unfolding still hidden in shadows? Deep in their hearts, they felt the stirrings of something grand, an adventure awaiting revelation just beyond the horizon. The chapel felt alive, almost breathing with an ancient spirit as Thomas and Mary knelt in prayer. The flickering candles cast gentle shadows, dancing in rhythm with their souls' quiet whispers. Thomas raised his eyes to the crucifix overhead, seeking a sign, a confirmation of the stirring in his heart. "Lord," he breathed, "what do you want from us?" Mary, sensing his turmoil, squeezed his hand. "Whatever it is, I believe we can face it together." Her voice was a comforting melody amidst the silence. As they rose, the air shifted, charged with expectation. Stepping out into the cool night, the world around them glimmered beneath the stars. They wandered towards the river where reflections of the heavens sparkled like jewels upon the water. Thomas felt a pull towards the water's edge, his heart resonating with the gentle ripples. "You know," he began, breaking the tranquil silence, "this miracle, it can't just be for us. It has to be shared." Mary nodded, her eyes wide with understanding. "You feel it too, don't you? There's something more, something waiting to unfold." In that moment, a faint sound reached their ears, the murmur of voices drifting through the village. They turned, their path illuminated by the glow of lanterns, and headed back. Thomas could feel the rising tide of community, a gathering in the square. As they approached the scene, Thomas heard snippets of conversation filled with hope and excitement. Villagers spoke of new beginnings and shared dreams. He felt an undeniable sense of belonging and purpose swell within him. "Let's listen," Mary suggested, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. They pushed through the crowd, finding a spot near the front. An elder, his hair silver as the moonlight, stood before the people, his hands raised in a gesture of unity. The warmth of his presence seemed to envelop the crowd. "My dear friends," he spoke, his voice deep and rich, We have witnessed miracles within our midst. But God is not finished with us yet. There are tides of change flowing. We must be ready to embrace them. Thomas's heart raced. The elder's words ignited a fire within him, connecting his yearning to share their story. He felt God's whisper grow more insistent. Taking a deep breath, Thomas stepped forward. The elder's eyes met his, sparkling with understanding. Without hesitation, he gestured for Thomas to continue. "My brothers and sisters," Thomas began, his voice steady yet trembling with excitement. "Mary and I have been touched by an extraordinary miracle. We are living proof that faith transforms our darkest moments into light." The crowd was silent, hanging on to every word. He shared their journey, the pain, the despair, the unwavering hope. The air fizzled with energy as he spoke of the importance of their collective faith. We are called not just to bask in our blessings, but to spread this light, to uplift each other as we step into the unknown. With every phrase, he saw understanding and joy bloom in the villagers' faces. They reacted, murmuring, "Amen," and nodding in affirmation. Suddenly, a brilliant light flickered above the gathering, casting an ethereal glow over their souls. Gasps echoed as everyone looked skyward. An unearthly presence surrounded them, filled with warmth and purpose. A feeling of awe washed over Thomas and Mary. The promise felt so close, the stirring was real. As he felt the weight of their shared faith reverberate in the air, he realized the thrilling truth. They were on the brink of something monumental. But a question lingered in the depths of his spirit. What lay ahead? What further wonders awaited them in this divine journey? What were they being prepared for, and how would they respond in faith? The night pulsed with anticipation, and as the villagers looked on, a collective heartbeat echoed, waiting to know the direction of God's unfolding plans. As the brilliant light enveloped the villagers, an awe-filled silence washed over the square. Faces turned upward, each person held captive by the divine glow cascading from above. Thomas felt the mounting energy pulse through him, his heart racing with each beat, resonating with the unspoken hopes of his neighbors. It was as if the fabric of the universe was knitting their souls together that night. Mary squeezed his hand, her eyes reflecting the light's luster. "This is bigger than us," she whispered, her voice filled with wonder. "We are part of something extraordinary." The elder's voice broke through the stillness, firm yet gentle. "Friends, do not be afraid. The light speaks to us. It beckons us towards a new path, one that requires courage, faith, and above all, action." As he spoke, the light pulsed in sync with his words, a heavenly affirming rhythm that stirred every heart. Thomas felt a wave of reverence wash over the crowd. A softness filled the air, wrapping around them like a hug from the divine. This wasn't merely the glow of lanterns. This was spiritual illumination, revealing truth and destiny. "Look to one another," the elder urged, eyes sparkling. "In the realm of God we are not isolated. This light binds us to our purpose." A ripple of agreement surged through the villagers, their spirits rising like the tide carried by the moon. Thomas took a deep breath. He knew this was a pivotal moment, not just for him and Mary, but for their entire village. "We are being called forth," he declared, his voice ringing clear and true. "Together, we will embark on a mission of healing and hope. We will not hide our miracles. We will let them flow through our community." The crowd erupted in enthusiastic response. "Yes, amen." Encouragement thrummed through their shared energy, an undeniable acknowledgement that God's plans were unfolding in real time. But a question lingered in Thomas's mind. The elder had spoken of action. What did this truly mean? What steps were they to take in response to such a divine revelation? The joyous unity felt exhilarating, yet a hint of apprehension tugged at Thomas's heart. Could they possibly carry the weight of expectation? "Life can feel overwhelming," Mary said softly, seeming to read his thoughts. "But we're not alone. We have each other." Her reassuring smile pierced through the nebulous thoughts swirling in his mind. He nodded, feeling a sense of peace settle deep within him. From behind them, an unexpected voice rose. young Solomon, whose laughter often echoed among the village children. "What will we do first?" he called out, his innocence crystallizing the moment. The villagers turned, inviting their young friend into the circle's sacred sharing. The elder's smile widened. "We begin with the broken. The lost among us need our hands, our hearts, and our faith." A murmur of agreement spread like wildfire, igniting passionate chatter among the crowd. Thoughts raced through Thomas's mind. They could organize food drives, host gatherings for those in need, create a sanctuary for the vulnerable. The practicalities felt immense, but invigorating. It was a call to motion, to tangible faith in action. As excitement filled the air, a sudden gust of wind swirled through the square, a soft whisper that seemed to carry a message. "Trust," it seemed to say, pulling at the threads of his spirit. It was an invitation, not a demand. Despite the excitement, there was a deeper challenge at hand. "Do not rush ahead," he breathed softly, half to himself. "We must walk in faith, each step guided." As the crowd engrossed in ideas and enthusiasm began to formulate plans, a realization dawned on Thomas. They were not merely acting, they were becoming vessels for God's love, transformative agents bringing divine change into their reality. And so they stood there, filled with vibrant faith and fervent hope, ready to embrace the adventure before them. But as visions of their potential held them captivated, a lingering mystery hung in the air. What trials might threaten their path? What obstacles would they face as they reached for the light? The elder raised his hand, signaling for quiet. "We've tapped into something miraculous, but beware," he cautioned gently. "The journey will not be without challenge. Stand firm in your faith. Tests of spirit and resolve will arise." Uncertainty blended with excitement in Thomas's heart, apprehension mingling with faith-filled anticipation. They were heading into uncharted territory, and the path ahead shimmered with both promise and potential peril. What awaited them as they stepped boldly forward? What revelations were waiting just beyond the horizon? Only time would tell, but one truth remained clear. They were not walking alone. Together, they would face whatever God had planned. The night wore on, the divine light still dancing in the center of the square, casting soft shimmers across the villagers' faces. Thomas watched as the glow transformed the mundane into the extraordinary. Each flicker seemed to whisper promises of hope, and he felt inspired to rise above his uncertainties. "Let's gather tomorrow," proposed the elder, breaking the hush that had settled over them. "We'll meet at dawn in the meadow where the sun first breaks through the night. There we'll pray and seek guidance on the steps to take." It was a simple idea, but filled with profound potential. Thomas felt an urge to resonate with those words. The dawn was always a symbol of new beginnings, and it seemed fitting to embark on this journey with hearts open in the light of day. As the villagers dispersed, there was a renewed energy in their steps. Thomas and Mary walked hand in hand, their hearts light, buoyed by a shared vision. Yet, as they approached their home, a thought pulled at Thomas. They faced a great responsibility. How would they help the broken? Who among them needed care, and were they truly ready for the challenges foreseen? Mary squeezed his hand, as if sensing his struggle. "What worries you?" she asked gently, her voice like a calming balm. "It's the weight of expectation," he admitted. "What if we fall short? What if our efforts don't lead to the healing we seek?" Mary paused, her expression thoughtful. "Maybe it's not about what we can accomplish on our own. It's about surrendering to His will and trusting that He will work through us. Even in our weaknesses, He is strong." Her words echoed within him, igniting a deeper realization. They would not walk this path single-handedly. They would lean on each other, on their community, and most importantly, on God. The moon illuminated the quiet night, and Thomas suddenly felt clarity flood over him like the light that had enveloped the villagers. "You're right. Our strength lies in our unity and faith. Together, we can bear one another's burdens." Mary nodded, her eyes bright. "Let us remember that our love and faith are what will guide us. Each small act of kindness can ripple through the lives of many. We just have to start. As they reached their door, Thomas contemplated the possibilities. Would they organize a food drive tomorrow? Perhaps they could gather clothes for those in need or visit the elderly. There were so many directions they could go. But what should we prioritize? He wondered aloud. Let's listen, Mary encouraged. Let's open our hearts tonight and let God show us the way. We must be sensitive to his whispers. At that moment, a strange rustling came from the bushes nearby. They both turned, startled. Out stepped old Abner, their neighbor. His eyes shone with a brightness that seemed to rival the earlier light. I need you, he breathed, his voice trembling with urgency. There's something happening in my family, and I fear for them. Thomas felt a jolt of purpose surge through him. This was it. This was the beginning of their mission, the very opportunity they needed to embrace their calling. We're here for you, Abner. We will walk this journey together. And with that simple promise, Thomas sensed a surge of divine strength. They could do this. God was leading them into action, even in this unforeseen moment. As Abner began to share his concerns, Thomas's heart raced with a new realization. There would be surprises on this path. The challenges might not reveal themselves until formed in community, molded through shared stories and connections. What else might await them in this unfolding narrative? What additional trials would refine their resolve and deepen their faith? Tomorrow's dawn was drawing closer, and with it the promise of immense possibility. They had stepped into the adventure, but where would it ultimately lead? The first light of dawn crept slowly across the meadow, casting a warm golden hue upon the dew-kissed grass. A sense of expectancy hung in the air as villagers gathered, their faces painted with a mix of eagerness and determination. Thomas could feel the energy of collective hope pulsating around him, intertwining with his own spirit. This was a gathering birthed from divine purpose. Look at them, Mary whispered, squeezing his hand. They've come with open hearts. Yes, he replied, marveling at the sight. It's like they believe something miraculous is about to happen. The elder stood at the forefront, his gray hair aglow in the early rays of sunlight. Let us pray, he beckoned, raising his hands towards the heavens. The collective breath of the villagers released in unison as they bowed their heads, a beautiful tapestry of faith woven together in that moment. As they prayed, Thomas sensed the presence of God sweeping through them, filling the air with warmth and assurance. Each murmured word felt like a sacred promise. He drew strength from the comfort surrounding him, allowing it to wash over his fears and doubts like a gentle stream. Lord, the elder's voice resonated, lead us. Show us where we are needed. Guide our hearts to care for those in pain. Thomas felt a stirring in his spirit. It was as if the very words bounced back and forth within him, igniting a holy fire. What if they just needed to be present? What if in their willingness to listen, they could uncover a destiny that had long been hidden? After the prayer, conversations sprang to life, a chorus of voices discussing Abner's plight. They gathered in a tight circle, bringing to the forefront the struggles of one another, each story echoing the same underlying truth. Everyone was somehow hurting. Thomas's attention was captured by a woman named Grace, whose eyes glimmered with unshed tears. I'm worried for my son, she confessed, her voice quivering slightly. He has lost his way, and I fear he goes deeper into darkness. His heart felt heavy, a mixture of empathy and resolve. We stand together, Grace. Let's reach out to him together. No parent should feel alone in such a battle. Mary stepped forward, her expression radiant with compassion. What if we join hands right now and pray for your son? Where there is unity, there is additional strength. As they all congregated around Grace, linking hands tightly, Thomas felt connected with a thread of unwavering love that transcended every individual concern. They began to pray collectively, voices rising in a symphony of hope and faith. Lord, seek out this lost soul. Shine your light upon him. The fervor in their voices ignited something profound within him. After the amen, there was a pregnant pause, and Thomas could sense the air growing thick with anticipation. The villagers exchanged glances, eyes sparkling with a mix of faith and uncertainty. What next? But even as they stood there, a soft voice came from the back. It was Abner, looking frailer than before, yet his voice carried a magnetic strength. "There's something more to this," he said, eyes shining. "I have a vision I've been holding on to. A vision of healing for our entire community." The notion hung in the air, provocative and exhilarating. A vision for the whole community? How they yearned for communal healing. With hearts racing, Thomas sensed the call to action. What could this mean? How could they be part of such something extraordinary? "Let us not just pray but organize," Thomas exclaimed, his spirit ignited once again. "Let's create a plan together, a festival of healing." And with that, a spark ignited in every heart as ideas began to flow. Cancer support, food distribution, mental health conversations. All these possibilities sparked conversations in that rich meadow, the dawn now fully risen, illuminating their potential. But in the midst of this stirring, a question lingered in Thomas's mind. What truly awaited them in this pursuit? The road ahead promised challenges and revelations. Was their will enough? Or would they need to dig deeper for a divine breakthrough? The dawn had sparked their ministry, but what would unfold when they pressed further into God's calling? As the sun rose higher, casting its warm embrace over the meadow, Thomas and the villagers felt the echo of possibility ripple through their spirits. Excitement fluttered in the air, blending seamlessly with a sense of divine purpose that was almost tangible. The vision Abner spoke of was no ordinary idea. It was a stirring call for revival, a chance not only to act, but to become vessels of healing. "Let's break into groups," Mary suggested, her voice imbued with enthusiasm. "We can tackle different aspects of the festival. We should invite those who can provide workshops, food contributions, and even music to lift our hearts." Nods of agreement and murmurs of excitement synchronized like a gentle hymn, their faith blossoming under the warmth of the sun. Thomas glanced at Grace, whose worry had momentarily faded into a gleam of hope. They were poised on the precipice of something extraordinary, a shared mission born out of love. He gathered a few volunteers, their faces bright with excitement. "We need to spread the word far and wide. Let everyone know that we're healing as a community. Let's create flyers and use every means possible to ensure that no one feels excluded." The villagers erupted into action, transforming the scene into a kaleidoscope of movement and purpose. Laughter mixed with chatter as they brainstormed ideas. Each person, regardless of their past, began to see themselves as an integral part of the plan, ready to usher in restoration. It felt as if a tapestry of healing was being woven right there in the meadow. But as the day wore on, Thomas felt the weight of the sacred task ahead. The joy was enveloped by an underlying anxiety. Could they truly pull this off? Not that doubt destroyed his spirit, but a quiet voice within reminded him of the obstacles they might face. In that moment of reflection, Abner joined Thomas, sensing the turning tides within him. "Thomas," he said softly, "we must remember, the promise of God is far greater than our fears. It's in these very feelings of inadequacy that His strength shines brightest." As they spoke, the preparation surrounding them seemed like a dance choreographed by divine hands. With each passing hour, the day transformed, and the villagers found themselves strong in unity. Faces that once wore uncertainty now glowed with purpose. It was a sight to behold, an embodiment of the scripture that declares where 2 or 3 are gathered in His name, there He is among them. With excitement rising, they crafted a list of services to offer at the festival. Each offering resonated deeply, from prayers for the sick to simple meals for the hungry. The heart of the gathering was people, thriving and rekindling connections within their community. Thomas marveled at the sense of belonging, yet, as they were drawing plans for the festival, an uneasiness began to bubble beneath the surface. The collective energy attracted attention, and whispers of doubt and skepticism stirred on the edges of the gathering. Who were they to make such bold proclamations? What if they failed? Doubts began dancing in the corners of Thomas's mind, but he took a deep breath, allowing the spirit of confidence to fill him. "Keep your hearts open," he encouraged the team. If God has called us, He will equip us. Let's not be swayed by the noise around us. There, in the golden meadow, thick with anticipation, as they clasped hands, Thomas felt an unshakable peace settle over him. They were moving towards something powerful, a convergence of faith and action. Just as the sun reached its zenith, a gentle breeze swept through the meadow. An unexpected hush fell over the crowd. An elderly villager approached, her weathered hands shaking slightly. Her eyes were filled with a wisdom born from years of faith. "I've come with a word from God for this gathering," she said, her voice steady yet soft. "Healing comes not just through action, but through surrender." The weight of her words hung heavy and profound. The villagers looked at one another, sensing the gravity of this moment. What were they meant to surrender, and how would that change their mission? In the midst of their preparations, the essence of the calling began to deepen. What awaited them further down this path of healing? What hidden lessons would surface as they leaned into surrender? Questions loomed above them as they forged ahead, ready to embrace whatever divine surprises lay ahead. As the murmurs of the elderly villager faded, the air grew thick with contemplation. What did it mean to surrender? The villagers exchanged glances, their hearts burdened yet hopeful. In that sacred moment, Thomas felt the weight of truth pressing down on him. It was a truth that beckoned them into deeper waters, past the actions of the festival, where the real healing could begin. "Let us stay in prayer," Thomas suggested, his voice a steady anchor for the group. "Let's ask God to reveal what we need to surrender." With this intention, they formed a circle, hands clasped tightly, spirits lifting as they surrendered their worries and fears. The sun dipped lower in the sky, casting a golden hue across the meadow. As they prayed, a serene stillness enveloped them. One by one, voices rose in soft whispers, offering their concerns to God. With each word, a release transformed their collective anxiety into peace. Thomas felt a gentle warmth spread through him, a budding assurance that they were supported in their mission. Then, as if touched by the breath of heaven, Grace spoke up, her voice trembling with conviction. "I think we need to let go of our need for perfection. We might not have everything lined up, but God can use our hearts. That is the beauty of surrender." Her words settled like seeds ready to sprout, inspiring nods across the circle. Abner, inspired by the moment, added, "Yes, it's not about the grand gestures, but about our willingness to serve. Just as Jesus did, we need to bow low, to lift others high." A wave of affirmation spread through the group. They began to envision the festival not as a flawless production, but as a space for raw, authentic connection, a place for every person to experience God's love in their own unique way. They were cobbling together a mosaic of brokenness, joy, and surrender, realizing that every piece mattered. Suddenly, a wild gust of wind swept through the meadow, rustling leaves and stirring hearts. It was electrifying, a promise of change. The villagers glanced at one another, an unspoken agreement passing between them. The spirit was moving. "Let's write our individual worries down," Thomas proposed, "and we can burn them in a fire later. As a sign of surrender, we'll offer our burdens to God." With renewed energy, they scattered to find branches and leaves, gathering their thoughts into tangible forms. Later, as twilight descended, they gathered around a small fire. With each piece of paper tossed into the flames, they visually released their fears and doubts. The smoke curled into the night sky like prayers ascending. Thomas felt tears well up. It was an offering they could present unencumbered by expectations. Just as the last worry was consumed by the fire, a flickering light illuminated the crowd. A strange and beautiful aura enveloped them, as if heaven itself had taken notice. Thomas's heart raced. Could this be an invitation? Right then, a young boy ran up, his eyes wide with wonder. "Look," he shouted, pointing toward the horizon. "The sky is changing. It looks like a rainbow." The villagers turned, their gazes drawn to the colorful arch appearing above them, vivid against the deepening blue. It felt profound, the very sign of hope and promise stretching across the heavens. "What more is God preparing for us?" someone whispered, awe painting their features. They stood in reverence, hearts beating as one. The promise of the festival held weight, but now a deeper promise throbbed in the air. The idea that surrender was not an end, but the beginning of miracles. In the warmth of community and the glow of the fire, Thomas realized they stood at the threshold of transformation. The air quivered with potential, and he breathed in deeply, feeling the divine presence anew. What awaited them as they continued this sacred journey? What miracles lay in the balance on the other side of surrender? The unanswered questions hung tantalizingly in the air, beckoning them yet closer to the heart of God. The night deepened, and with it a hush fell over the villagers. The rainbow faded softly into the starlit sky, yet the spirit of hope lingered, vibrant as ever. Thomas felt the awe in his heart expanding, breaking barriers he never knew existed. They had surrendered, released their burdens to the winds of faith. "Isn't it beautiful?" whispered Grace, her eyes reflecting the stars. "This moment, it's like a promise wrapped in colors." Thomas nodded, sinking deeper into the warmth of shared faith. "Yes, and so much more. It feels as if God is inviting us to witness something incredible." As they stood together, his mind wandered back to the tales of old, the stories of miracles and abundance that unfolded at the edge of faith. What if this rainbow marked the entrance to their own miracle? Could it be that their surrendered hearts had unlocked the door to greater things? Someone broke the contemplative silence. "Let's tell stories," an elder suggested, a twinkle lighting up his eyes. "Stories of hope, of miracles. Let us share what we've seen and felt." One by one, they let their voices rise, speaking of moments when God's hand had touched their lives. A story of healing, where a sick child now played in the sun. Another of unmatchable provision when a family faced famine and found an unexpected feast. Thomas listened, enraptured by their tales. Every narrative carved a pathway in the night, connecting them to one another, weaving faith like golden thread through the fabric of their lives. He thought, could this sharing be part of their miracle? Might we also be part of someone else's story? Abner mused aloud, his gaze serious and thoughtful. What if we're meant to be vessels of hope for others as well? The idea struck them collectively. They were not just gathering for themselves, but to become conduits of God's love and hope. With each story shared, they felt lighter, closer. They could see their burdens were only part of a larger mosaic, each of them a vital piece in God's design. The fire crackled, sending sparks dancing into the night. It was mesmerizing, almost ethereal. Thomas felt the warmth wash over him, a soothing balm to his spirit. Before long, the stories turned to quiet prayers, murmured into the soft embrace of darkness. They prayed for neighbors, friends, the sick, the lost. Thomas's heart swelled with compassion. "Let us remember," he said, rising to encourage the group, "that in our surrender lies our strength. Each prayer is a brick in the path toward deeper healing." From within the circle, voices nodded in agreement. The unity they had fostered felt like a shield against the world beyond their fold. It was as if the walls around them sparkled with promise, each laugh, each tear, each prayer forging a bond of sacred trust. Just then, a sudden brightness emerged from the heart of the fire, illuminating their faces in flickering light. The night seemed to still, and a sense of anticipation grew palpable. "Look," Grace gasped, pointing skyward. They followed her finger, and gasps echoed through the crowd. Above them, the stars shifted, a celestial dance that was both magnificent and unnerving. Could it be more than a mere spectacle? Thomas felt the weight of expectation and curiosity in the air. Heartbeats quickened. "What is this?" someone whispered, eyes wide in wonder. The universe had begun to respond. Wisps of awe hung thick around them, cloaking dreams and possibilities. Yet, within that profound wonder, a question arose like a soft breath. What if this truly is the beginning of something bigger? What awaited them, hidden among the stars? What new revelations were unfurling just beyond their sight? As the villagers stood in awe beneath the celestial display, the atmosphere shimmered with anticipation. Thomas felt the weight of impending revelation. It was as if the universe itself had tilted, aligning the heavens to beckon them closer to their divine purpose. The elder stepped forward, his eyes alight with understanding. "This," he said, raising his arms, "is a sign of God's sovereignty, His preparation of our hearts for what is to come. We are called to be watchful and responsive." Each word resonated deeply, igniting hope threaded with purpose. Thomas felt Mary squeeze his hand, grounding him amidst the swirling wonder. They had surrendered their fears, and now they stood on the brink of unfolding miracles. "What are we to do?" he mused silently, yearning for guidance. In that moment, he understood. The answers were not for him alone, but for the entire community to discover together. A hush fell over the congregation. The light above them shifted, swirling with hues that seemed to pulse with life. God was speaking. He was inviting them to enter into the beauty of divine orchestration. "I believe," Mary said softly, her eyes reflecting the celestial glow. "We need to respond together in faith, in joy, and in love." Hearts resonated with her words. Murmurs of agreement rose amidst the villagers. They could feel it, the urgency to act, to unify their spirits and propel into their calling, all bathed in the light of their miraculous ground. "What shall we do as a community?" a young voice piped up, hopeful and bright. Thomas smiled at the enthusiasm bubbling in the crowd. "Let's create a plan of action, a way to share our gifts with those who feel lost, just as we once did. We hold a power greater than ourselves when we come together." Excited chatter erupted, flowing like a river among them as ideas flourished. A healing center for those in despair, workshops of comfort and creativity, outreach gatherings to help the lonely realize they are never alone. "Let's forge connections with neighboring towns," suggested another villager. "Together we will create an even greater pool of support." Thomas felt tears of gratitude prick his eyes. They were blossoming into the faithful community God had designed. Just then, Solomon, the spirited young boy, stood on a stone. "Can we have a day of celebration like a festival? Let's invite everyone and tell them our stories." He beamed with infectious joy. "We can share our miracles and spread the love of God." "An invitation to healing through celebration," Thomas exclaimed. "Yes, a festival for our community where healing touches every heart." Breathless from the spirit of connection and union, the villagers began to divvy up roles and responsibilities, their faith becoming the very backbone of their community. Thomas marveled at the eagerness in their actions. It was fervent and alive, charged with divine energy. Suddenly, the lights above shifted dramatically, casting a dazzling display of color across the sky, as if affirming their efforts. A gasp rippled through the crowd, but this time it was transcendent, a reassurance that they were indeed moving toward something grand. As they blinked up toward the marvelous spectacle, the elder turned the crowd's attentions. "Look, this is God's grace among us, shining bright for all to see. He has heard our prayers." The villagers erupted into applause, hands clapping in joyous unity. Hearts surged. They were not merely observing a miracle, but becoming active participants in a divine narrative unfolding before them. With rallying hearts and inspired minds, they set to work. Days turned into vibrant planning sessions, laughter and camaraderie threading through the air. They created invitations, adorned with ornate designs and heartfelt messages, calling forth all who had been touched by despair to find love, healing, and community. The village transformed, the air thick with purpose. Banners hung cheerfully in trees, and excitement buzzed like bees in a garden flower. Songs echoed through the streets, while children danced, filling every corner with contagious joy that reflected the light above. Finally, the day of the festival dawned. A breathtaking array of colors lit the landscape, almost as if heaven and earth had conspired to present an extraordinary gift. Tables laden with food faced the community stage, while booths were run by people eager to share their gifts and talents. What started in the hearts of a few had burgeoned into a glorious celebration of healing, under the sacred sky, Thomas took a moment to breathe, to let the love of the community envelop him. Their collective faith had borne fruit beyond what they could have imagined. He felt Mary at his side, her radiant smile the embodiment of God's promise fulfilled. As they joined together at the center stage, he spoke with a full heart, addressing the crowd. Today we celebrate our miracles, our stories, but most importantly, we celebrate the miracle of one another. We are united by faith, love, and the presence of God among us. Cheers erupted as the crowd surged in support, a wave of collective hope washing over every individual gathered. I urge you, he continued, eyes gleaming, to carry this light with you always. Share your stories, extend your love. For in this spirit of unity, we shall continue to kindle the bond we share, lighting the path for others yet to join us. Banners unfurled beneath the divine colors of the sky, a myriad of hope and healing unfurling like petals to the sun. That day was more than a celebration. It was an awakening, a manifestation of divine promises woven into the hearts of every soul present. And as dusk settled, a renewed sense of purpose filled the air. The echo of faith remembered through laughter and connection, and the divine glow from above cast down upon them with profound assurance. In the heart of the quaint English village, God's handiwork was unmistakable, a living testament to the beauty of faith and unity. And Thomas knew deep within that this was only the beginning. The adventure was just beginning to unfold each day, and further miracles were yet to come. Do not let this moment pass without your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive faith stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and testimonies about the ending. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this manifestation. You need to subscribe now, for only true servants of God understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Don't wait even one more second to share.